All right, it is finally time to move, and as you can see, I've got all my games cleared out. The whole upstairs is an absolute mess, but it is cleared out nonetheless. Let's take a look at what we're up against moving all of our stuff. These are all the cables that are currently attached to my big TV. I got the small TV taken care of already, but you can see all the systems here and all the switchers are all still hooked up. And I have to transport all this stuff to the new house somehow. And I already know it's going to be a task. This is a 32-inch Trinitron. Yeah, it's just going to be an absolute nightmare. So I guess let's just get to it. So my wife and I moved into this apartment in 2021. And since then, this game room, quote unquote, has gone through a couple different iterations. It started out in the room you see behind me there as an actual room. And when we had our daughter, it turned into being in this upstairs nook area, which is where I ended up putting everything, including the TV. And there wasn't a whole lot of space. I had a recliner, I had my one shelf of games, which, by the way, I try to keep my collection to this one shelf. Hopefully it'll expand in the future, but that's kind of what it's been in this place since I've had limited space. But then also it's been this little nook with the TV and the stand that doesn't quite fit. There was a couple other shelves in there too, but for the most part, this has been my game setup. What I'm doing here is I'm just packing up all the cables. I'm trying to get these all sorted from the small TV, and I'm wrapping them up and storing them, or labeling them, I should say, and storing them in this box so that when I get to the new place, I have an idea of which cable goes to what. Obviously, I know which cable goes to what, but it just makes it so much easier to find everything when I'm trying to go back through it. So that's what I'm doing here. The next thing I'm going to need to do after I get these situated is going to be dealing with the games and the cables in the back. As I showed you before, it's a crazy mess behind this TV. You wouldn't believe how many cables and cords setting up a game station actually takes. So here is kind of a look at what that's going to be like. Oh, and by the way, I used just regular masking tape to do this. I probably wouldn't have used masking tape in the future. I'd like to find some different type of labeling that might be more useful, because the masking tape would get kind of stuck, and it gets like sticky on some of those, and I just really don't like the way that is. So yeah, in the future I might find a different way to label those, but for now that works. I'm also using these Velcro, I'll put them up on the screen, these Velcro ties to keep the cables organized. I really like these for cable management. I get kind of OCD with the cable management, and these Velcro ties make doing that so much easier. And I'll in the future probably use more and more of those. But you can get like a big pack of them on Amazon for really cheap. So here I am behind the TV trying to work out all the stuff that's going to need to move here. And I get a little bit of anxiety as that happens. So yeah, enjoy watching me scaredly looking behind my television, seeing all the cables that are behind it. But this is part of the fun, and it's just something you're gonna have to do. I actually really enjoy assembling and disassembling all my game stuff. Not necessarily the assembling and disassembling, but actually getting to set it up and get it in a new spot and start, kind of fresh, so to say. So as daunting and tedious as it is, I do really enjoy the whole setting up and taking down process. Now, as you can see, I'm showing off the switchers here. You get a little sneak peek of the cables that go into it. By the way, this is my Philips automatic switcher. It's automatic component switcher, which is kind of hard to find. If I could find another one of those Philips switchers, I would be very happy. But for now, yeah, anyways, this is you can see all the cables that are in just that little cubby, because I routed everything into those two little pockets. And now I'm having to take the systems out and then route the cables one by one through there. And it was a lot of intricate cabling to get this set up the way that it is right now. And I'm having to, yeah, like I said, we're taping all this stuff together just to kind of somewhat keep it organized. But all these cables are routed behind the wall, so to say, of this TV stand, and they're all just kind of bunched into that right hand side cubby. And it worked great. Actually, the cable management in front of this TV setup was pretty good, if I do say so myself. I liked the way that it was routed and the way that everything was set up, but now having to take it apart is, like I said, it's a daunting task. So I'm just having to get all the cables one by one. You can see all of them right there. There's just a ton of them. Now, what I'm doing here, like I said, is routing each of those cables through the back of this TV stand. This TV stand is kind of the bane of my existence for both setup and teardown here. But yeah, I'm trying to get each of these cables out one by one, wrap them up, and keep them somewhat organized. I had all the power cables in one. Oh, there's one of the ties I was telling you about. But I try to keep all the power cables in one box and all the audio video cables in another. And that seemed to be a pretty effective way of doing it. Yeah, the power cables being big bricks for most of these old systems is also a bit of a pain. Oh, and if you're ever going to do this, by the way, if you've got a ton of cables, it's the easiest. You want to find the smallest cables you can. This big component cable that I have right here was just the absolute worst thing to work with because it's just this huge, thick cable. And yeah, I didn't like it at all. But anyways, we wrapped it up and we got it all situated. It was right about this time, too, that I started thinking, as I get closer and closer to being done with the cables and putting the systems away, I'm gonna have to move this TV, and that does scare me a little bit. This is a 32-inch Trinitron. I've done a review on this TV on my channel. This TV is very heavy and it's very awkward. It's nearly impossible for me to move by myself, so I'm going to have to recruit some help with this one for sure. I've moved a lot of CRTs in my life, and I'm pretty comfortable with it, but this is just one that I cannot move by myself. I require some help. So I might recruit my dad or my brother and see if we can get this big thing moved to the new house, and at least into the new house. That's that's the biggest, scariest part, is moving a big TV like this can always be a little bit of a challenge. But that's what we're going to try and do. I'm just getting everything packed up and moved over there. I think that's the most important part of this episode, we'll say, of my new game room. But moving all the stuff into the new house is a task that has, like I said, given me a lot of anxiety just because there is a lot of things and I'm paranoid about things getting broken. Especially with CRT TVs, if you aren't careful when you're transporting them, you can really throw off a bunch of different things and cause some issues with the TV. So I just wanted to make sure that when I do move it, that I can move it safely. And I actually have two other CRTs that I'm going to have to move as well. Two different ones that I plan on doing reviews for in the future too. So anyways, we got like 3 CRTs to move, 3 or 4, and a bunch of games and a bunch of consoles. And yeah, it's just a little bit stressful. So here I am just trying to get all the stuff out of the house, and I can feel a lot better about that. I highly recommend, if you are planning on making a game room, or if you're planning on setting up a CRT with a bunch of systems and TVs or whatever, I would highly recommend doing a good job with cable management at the start instead of just setting it up and going back to it. It'll make your life a million times easier when you ever have to change anything or go back and adjust. So here I've finally managed to start fishing out these cables from the back of this TV stand, and I'm wrapping them up using those same Velcro strips that I was telling you about before. Some of the cables are easier than others to get out, like for instance these HD Retrovision cables for the Genesis are not easy because they are shielded, which is great, except getting them in and out of a small crevice like that is a bit of a pain. But we are making some progress here. I'm just packing everything up into one of these like shoebox things, and just putting all the audio video cables in one here. You can kind of see there in the back, there's like one little hole for the back of this TV stand that I had to run everything through. I'm amazed that all the cables fit through there. And actually not all of them did, but for the most part I got them all through that hole. You can definitely cut out another hole, but I wanted as few gaps in that the TV stand as possible, just to make sure that it kind of looked like everything was just flowing into the back. But I did fish everything through there, power cables and the audio video cables for everything pretty much that you see, with the exception of the Wii and actually the VHS. Sorry, the VCR was on a different run, but in any case, pretty much everything is ran through that hole in the back of the TV stand. And at this point too, I haven't actually decided whether or not I want to keep this TV stand or not. I'm leaning towards not keeping it and getting something different for the new place. The space that I'll have for my gaming area is going to be a little bit bigger, so I'm not limited to, you know, this 36-inch TV stand. I can get something a little bit bigger. I don't know if I want to do that or not. I haven't 100% decided, but this thing has served me really well, and it would pain me to get rid of it, but that probably will end up being the case. I'm just going to have to find something that will serve as a good replacement for it. Now, the last thing I'm doing here is wrapping up all of the consoles and packing up the rest of my games. You can see, again, I'm being extremely paranoid and wrapping all my games in plastic wrap and bubble wrap. We are just moving down the streets, probably 15 minutes drive from where we currently live, but I'm not taking any chances. I've decided to bubble wrap everything and even double layer it, as you can see, but that's my own problem of being a little bit too paranoid. But I wanted to make sure that everything was as safe as possible. A lot of these consoles have been around for quite a while, and I want to make sure that none of them are getting damaged in transport. So just doing whatever I can to make sure that that doesn't happen. Most of the consoles that I have here are ones that will just end up going into my new game room anyways. I have a couple consoles that I don't necessarily need to put in there or have too much interest in putting in my other room, like the Atari. This bin is a lot of my extra controllers and just knickknacks that you can see. There's like a Nintendo rental case there, just some random stuff that I've had laying around. But that's kind of the bottom of, once I've got everything packed away, that was all that was left. So that's what that bin is there. I'm just getting everything wrapped up, and I'm going to put these all into a tote. And that tote is what's going to be transported to the new house. And look at this. I had exactly enough bubble wrap. I literally used exactly one roll for that. I'm pretty impressed with myself there. That worked out about as good as it possibly could have. And we're just packing everything up. Let's go throw it in this tote here. You can see I already got some of them packed up there. And we're just going to get this all packed in there nice and tidy. Throw a lid on, and that is what will be transported. Alright guys, everything has been completely cleared out. You can see behind the TV there's one cord left, and it is the TV's cord. All the games are gone. They're packed up into these boxes. The consoles, all the games, all my movies, VHS, and everything like that is all gone. So that is what's left, and that's where I'm going to end episode 1. And episode 2, I'm going to start getting moved and set everything up. So stay tuned.